I'm Khyati Gupta, an investment analyst at Equanimity Investments, and I welcome you all to the live session today on the topic The Power of Storytelling for Startup Founders. Stories possess the ability to connect, captivate, and catalyze change. Today, we delve into the art of storytelling by exploring its profound impact on startup founders. I'm thrilled to introduce our speaker for today, Shyam Raju. Hi, Sham.
Hi, Kathy. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're really happy to have you here. Sham's journey is a symphony of success. He's the co founder of Hi Hello, a dating app for Bharat. Although Sham graduated from IIM Bangalore and worked in esteemed organizations like Gupshup, Oziva, Star TV, Mirchi, and BookMyShow, he felt compelled to embark his journey as a startup founder by building a product for Tier 2 India. He believes that every 100 kilometers in India, there exists a separate country altogether. Additionally, he also believes that to accurately understand and position oneself into the B2C space, one needs to be a storyteller, both for the audience and investors alike. This session promises to be fascinating by providing a plethora of insights into how to be an effective storyteller. Over to you, Sham.
Sure. Thanks for having me once again. Kathy, if you actually break this down, right? Fundamentally speaking, storytelling has been around. It's what our forefathers, it's what our sacred texts have all been about. They have been written basically through an oral tradition of storytelling, be it the Ramayana, be it the Mahabharata, or for the matter, any of the major texts that are there across the world, right? So storytelling is a very integral part of our lives. I mean, when you're as a child, I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. They the last thing they do before they go to bed or before they sleep is they want to hear a story, right? I mean, that's what we've been fundamentally raised on. But somewhere over the course of time, adultery or adulting or education or our professional aspirations, etc., we've kind of lost that power of how shall I say, storytelling. And it's not rocket science. It's definitely not rocket science. If you actually break it down, it is something as fundamental as a human emotion. And it is not also about age or gender or anything like that. You don't have to be old to have experience to tell a story, or you don't have to be or naive or anything on those lines. You just have to connect with the audience, right? I mean, be it an old person, be it the ice superwoman, Lily Sings of this world, or for that matter, any creator currently, right? And any creator is a storyteller. Every creator is a storyteller in this universe, right? Every film is about storytelling, right? In the West, a scriptwriter is given much more respect, almost he's treated on par with a director, right? Ditto, in India also, because of the advent of OTT and some really good filmmakers, we are seeing the importance that is being given to scriptwriters. So storytelling is a fundamental part of our lives, right? And especially in the startup space, it becomes even more important, right? Because see, there are two stakeholders here. One is, of course, the consumer. Second is, of course, the investor, right? I have seen very many startup founders who are extremely good in the operational aspect, but they kind of flounder when it comes to the storytelling part. It is not either or. Just because I am a good storyteller, it doesn't mean that that I am not good at execution. Because storytelling without execution is pointless, right? It has to be a mixture of both. So, and when I say investor, okay, so let me maybe I can elaborate on this more by talking about what it is that I'm doing in terms of as a co-founder of an app, etc. So I come from, as you pointed out in the introduction, I have worked in a bunch of professional organizations, and I am for lack of a better phrase, I am an upper caste, highly privileged Indian male who studied in a convent school in this country. So that makes me in the top 1 2 percentile. in the top this thing realm of India. And uh, I know for a fact I can actually I have five generations before me, in my family tree, who have all been educated, who all had a job, right from the pre-independence time. And the other day we were just doing the family tree, and I'm like, oh wow, I come from such an illustrious line. What am I doing? Kind of thing. So, in other words, I'm very privileged. But I also realized that the momentum shifted. So what happened was in the 90s and the 2000s, the gatekeepers were very few people. There were only very few people, upper caste people, or the rich people, or people who had access to the media, etc., who were the gatekeepers. Luckily, internet kind of democratized everything, right? So anybody with a smartphone and a data connection is as empowered uh, as the Elon Musks or the Mark Zuckerbergs of this world, because he or she has a point of view and he or she can put it across, right? And one of the things I realized, especially in a country like India, right? There is India, which are the top 10 cities, and there is Bharat, which is the non-top 10 cities. And never the twain shall meet, in the sense the top 10 cities are, uh, they are, I watch Friends, I follow Arsenal, I like Breaking Bad, my music tastes are different. I watch French and South Korean cinema, so on and so forth, right? Whereas Bharat, they are aware of Kim Kardashian, they're aware of everybody, but they're aware of them in their native language, in their local language, right? If you think about it, right? I mean, if you look at Europe, there are X number of countries in Europe. All these countries are basically formed on the basis of language. France, French, Italy, Italian, Germany, German, so on and so forth. In India, we have 29 states, predominantly formed on language. Tamil Nadu, Tamil, Andhra, Telangana on Telugu, Karnataka on Kannada, etc., etc., Kerala on Malayalam. So, but we have 29 states which are almost the same size as a European country, but they're all part of India. So, in other words, we are actually an eclectic bunch of countries that have come together to form one overarching entity called India, right? And hence, that phrase that you use, every 100 kilometers there is a separate country, really holds true, because people think in different. Of course, luckily, because of the colonial thing or whatever, Lord Macaulay and what you have, we have English as a language that kind of connects all the educated people, etc. But if you actually go beyond that, you realize that there are so many how shall I say, influences, customizations that are required to cater to the non-metro population. And that's something that I was cognizant of, because I was aware that the metro population, or everybody is building for the metros, and that is just 20-30 million people who are actually spending money, right? And everybody is building for the 20-30 million people. But there is a huge population out there, right, which is sensitive on money, price sensitive, which likes to think in their own local language, etc. So what me and my co-founder did is, before we launched our app, we traveled. We traveled. We went to around 7 states, 24 towns, any town that has more than 10 lakhs population, right? That could be Guntur, Vijayawada, Madurai, Coimbatore, Ludhiana, Amritsar, so on and so forth. So we went to like a bunch of towns. We spoke to youngsters. We wanted to understand two, three things. One, will women, who are actually the de facto engine of a dating app, will women come on a dating app, right? Second, will they pay? As in, will people who subscribe for this dating app pay for the services? And what kind of payments are we looking at? And what is this whole thing about every 100 kilometers there's a separate country in this country, right? So what we did is, we spoke to these bunch of youngsters, and to our surprise, and I remember I was the marketing head of this B2C brand called Oziva, right? Which was predominantly a plant-based nutrition company. And we saw in Oziva that there were around, some 10 or 1,000 micro influencers between the 1,000, 5,000 subscriber follower range, and all these influencers were from small towns, and predominantly 90% were women. And because it was a fitness brand, right, these women were going on their terraces in a Jodhpur, in a Kanpur, etc. They were going on their terraces and doing dance and aerobics and so on and so forth, right, to kind of showcase that the fitness kind of a thing as part of an affiliate marketing program. So I was zapped. I mean, and when you meet these youngsters, they are so, how shall I say, so polished, so educated about what's happening in the world. Only thing is, the problem is we think in English. They don't think in English. They think in Hindi. They think in Tamil. They think in Bangla. They think in Marathi, in Kannada, in Telugu, so on and so forth. Like I met one youngster in Guntur who explained the entire Marvel multiverse to me. Yeah, and and he saw all these movies in the Telugu dubbed version, right? I mean, so it's not like they are naive or "Arey, wo gaon se hai," that entire thing is no longer there anymore because internet has democratized things. So when somebody says that, oh, our youngsters are getting polluted, so on and so forth because of internet, I would say no. Actually, they're getting empowered. Now they are able to put forward their stories. And it all again comes back to the importance of storytelling. So by doing this research, by speaking to these individuals, I was able to, how shall I say, articulate a, a business plan for my product, right? From a marketing point as well as from a product standpoint. So when I was in the offices of Equanimity talking to the partner, etc., I was able to articulate that. And that is what investors are looking for. They're not looking, of course, your degrees and references, etc., matter. But at the end of the day, if you do not, and like one of the first questions that Rajesh asked is, uh, how did you and your co-founders meet? Why did you think of dating? Because they want to know the story. They want to know what it is that has propelled us to leave our high-paying corporate jobs at the age of 40 and to jump blindfolded into the vagaries of the startup ecosystem, right? And for that, we needed to have that courage of conviction. And that comes, again, I'm not just faffing, I'm not just telling a story for the sake of it. That comes from rigorous execution, right? The fact that we traveled so much in summer heat, every second or third day, I was in a separate station. There used to be a time I should say, oh, because of my corporate life, every day I was in a separate airport, but here I was in a separate railway station. I actually saw Ratlam of Jab We Met, and then I found out that it was actually not shot in Ratlam, it was shot in Shimla, which kind of broke my heart and made me realize my entire childhood was a lie. But anyway, so what I'm saying is, it comes from rigorous execution. So when you talk to individuals, right, those stories automatically get formed. Stories are not made in a vacuum. Stories are not made on secondary research or listening to podcasts or reading newsletters. Because very many people are educated that way. No, stories are not made because of that. Stories are made only if you, even now, every month, I make it a point to go out. Every month, I make it a point to go out and, at least once a week, once a month, every weekend, I just take a train and go to a separate, like last month, I was in Bhopal. The month before that, I was in Nagpur, so on and so forth. So, yeah, so storytelling is an integral part for both the investor and the consumer. And yeah, and I hope very many people use their experience, use their ability to reach out to, and the most important thing is, do not be surrounded by people like you. Then you will not hear conflicting opinions. Till you hear a conflicting opinion, a story will never get formed. Remember, the best war movies in the world are always anti-establishment, right? I mean, if you think about it, right? I mean, right from the Deer Hunters to the Born on the 4th of July to what you have, they're all anti. Rang De Basanti is not a war film, but they were all anti-establishment, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. You should always, uh, you know, uh, talk to people who are not in the same mindset as yours. Only then you will realize how different there is a world out there, and you need to be able to articulate that. Yeah.
Wow, what a powerful session, Sham. We have a lot of questions coming up for you. Before we get into that, I had one question for you. Speaking on what you mentioned about what investors want to hear. So what I've understood is a story or an idea is not enough. Of course, in early stage VC, we assess startups on the basis of how well they can execute and their execution capabilities. So how and that too, executing in a sustainable way. So how do you perceive the relationship between storytelling and execution, and how do you validate that, this proposition for a startup success, for high hello success?
No, I think it's a very important question, and I think it's very integral to what I'm trying to say, because ideas are aplenty. Uh, they just remain on paper. Unless you execute them, it doesn't really matter, right? So, I mean, to take the example of the app Hi Hello, right, which is the dating app for Bharat, right? So we understood that we cannot have a one size fits all. So what we did is, in our travels, we came to understand who are the regional influencers. Who are the people who matter to, like, for example, in Punjab, there is this actress called Nimrat Khaira. She was a singer who's turned into an actress. And 95% of the girls that I met, all of them said they aspire to, their aspiration or their inspiration is Nimrat Khaira. And I had no idea who she was. Right. And that's because I'm living in a Mumbai bubble, Bollywood, and Sara Ali Khan and Janvi Kapoor, etc. But there is a Nimrat Khaira who is extremely entrenched in the lives of Punjab and surrounding Haryana. So it was important to know all those things. So in terms of the influences that we chose, in terms of the ads that we use, let's see, performance marketing is an integral part, right? Performance, content, and brand marketing. These are integral parts of marketing, right? So in performance marketing, we ensured that we created separate Telugu ads. In fact, one of our ads is actually based on the conversation I had with that youngster about when he was teaching me the Marvel multiverse, and how, and he's like, I know everything. It's just that I know in Telugu and I want to meet a girl who's like that, right? So we created Telugu ads, Tamil ads, Punjabi ads, Bhojpuri ads, Hindi ads, and we ensured that we marketed them through Google and Meta. We ensured that we reached the right set of people, in terms of interest, geographies, etc. And that helped us with a cost per install of just 3 rupees, and it's just going down every month. So powerful storytelling that connects to the right set of people, targeted in the right way, right, can really help the brand to reach a new level altogether. Yeah.
Understood. A very similar question on the platform that has come up by Alicia, who asks, how do you make narratives truly resonate with tier two audiences? Any language, cultural, or aspirational twist that you consider for the app?
Yeah, of course. Let me give you an example. Okay. And this is something that you can only learn by trial and error. Okay. First and foremost, do not get psyched up saying that if I'm going to do an ad, that will be the be all and end all. Every ad cannot be that Vodafone pug ad. Remember that Vodafone pug ad? There was a pug going behind a little child, the network follows. So every ad cannot be that. So there is always trial and error, right? I'll give you an example of 2 ads that we did. There was one ad which we did in Bhojpuri. This was a girl who was talking to the camera saying that मैं थोड़ी अम्मा बाबू के इशारों पे नाचूंगी. I want to lead my own life, so I have downloaded this app, right? So that ad got so much vitriol, online, so much hate, because how can you talk about mother and child, or mother and father like that, so on and so forth, right? But that ad did really well, but it also got a lot of pushback. On the other hand, we did an ad in Punjabi, right? And there is this girl who's saying, I don't want to go to Canada and Australia. I think India is a great place. I think Punjab is a great place, and I want to meet somebody in Punjab because I love Punjab, right? So that, in a way, that ad has 99% positive ratings. That there was so much love for that ad, right? So these are things that you realize that, as I said, every state, every corner, nook and corner of the country is unique, right? So we realized in Punjab, there is this entire thing because everybody wants to go to Canada, Australia, so on and so forth, right? But here is a girl who's saying Punjab is the best place to be, and I want to meet a guy here. right? So in UP, then we realized, okay, it's. I mean, come to think of it, the maximum Raksha Bandhan, the festival that is celebrated, Raksha Bandhan, is celebrated the most in UP and Bihar. So you have to be a little, how shall I say, respectful of that, right? So these are things. I mean, in the South, we realize that there is a girl who's saying, "I'm going to dance to, like Allu Arvind dance steps, or I'll dance to XYZ, and that also got a lot of love because the cinema industry is such an integral part of their lives, be it your Collywood or your Tollywood or what you have, right? So you have to identify how each state is a cultural metaphor in itself. It's an independent entity in itself, and you have to be cognizant of that particular aspect when you create an ad, right? And and I mean, look at it, right? I mean, because the numbers actually help. Like, for example, Prayagraj, which is Allahabad, right? It has around 500,000 students studying in Prayagraj at any given point of time. So if you are able to actually put together a great marketing campaign, right, targeting 500,000 kids, out of which 90% are not from Prayagraj, they're from various other parts of UP who have come to Prayagraj to study, right? So if you're able to put together a great local colloquial, communication piece, right, it just becomes much more easy. Like one of the piece that we created is, I miss my home, because they all come from Bamroli, from Varanasi, from Sultanpur, from various other places, and they come to Prayagraj to study for their IAS, IPS, and what you have, right? They stay in hostels, they miss home food, all that. So there's this ad that says, "I miss home," and I just want to have a friend whom I can, relate all these things to. And that added really well for us because that resonated with all these youngsters who are staying in hostels or paying guests, etc. Right? So, so you have to deep dive. You just cannot say, I'm appointing an agency. I will hire 1,000 influencers and I will do a television campaign. Maybe if you have the money, yes, you can. But as a startup company with limited funds, you have to really plan it out. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Shyam. Another question by Rashi on the platform, who asks, what are the elements that make startup founder's story compelling and memorable?
I think, it shows. When you say it, it shows. That emotion comes through, right? That emotion comes through because, see, as I said, it is not rocket science. These are lived in experiences, right? And and that is what is important. Like, I was ready to leave a cushy, privileged corporate job, to actually understand the intricacies of Bharat. My investor thought I was cuckoo in the head, but he also believed in the courage of my conviction, right? So that conviction has to come out, right? It's not a big deal. It's your courage that, and it could be simple stories. I'll give you an example, right? I was recently at a TIE event, and I met some amazing founders. I mean, these were people who were doing some exceptional work in far-flung places like Asansol, in Jaipur, and so on and so forth. But they didn't understand digital marketing. They didn't understand. I mean, I had to like really probe before they were able to tell what exactly is it that they were doing, and they were doing, as I said, some exceptional work, right? So maybe it's as simple as, talking to multiple set of people. That's why I keep saying, the biggest threat to any startup founder is to meet like-minded people. The minute you do that, you lose perspective. Meet as many different sets of people as you can. Tell your story to as many different people as you can and see if it resonates. If it doesn't, then there is a problem, right? It's only by trial and error, just like the ads that we have created, right? It's only by trial and error, by talking to multiple sets of different people, is when you're able to kind of put your whole story together.
Awesome. Building on your personal experience, Ankit asks, how did your journey from IIM Bangalore, and of course, you've worked in a lot of executive positions in corporates, how did that affect your co-founding experience of a dating app, and how did it affect the perspective that you have on the power of storytelling in startups?
Yeah. So if you so every category is different, right? I mean, be it tech, be it consumer tech, be it fintech, so on and so forth. Every category has their own set of challenges, right? When it comes to dating apps, right, there are only two integral elements. One is product stroke technology, and second is marketing. We have no supply chain, we have no logistics, we have no, it's relatively straightforward. Like my entire team strength is around 6 people. The team strength of Tinder in this country is 9 people, right? It's predominantly because it is only marketing and tech. So how did it affect in the sense what I realized is the more I go out and get out of my comfort zone is where I will actually be able to do much more justice to my app, right? And that's what has been my experience so far. And we have seen that time and again by putting in multiple perspectives, we were able to see, because what happens is all my batchmates are senior, or should I say, big shots and all. You know, maybe I cannot have a conversation with them, or maybe my conversations with them will be completely different, right? And I don't think they understand Bharat. Actually, the first set of angel investors who invested in my company before Equanimity came on board were actually people who have built for Bharat. Like, for example, I had Apramaya and Mayank from Ku built for Bharat, right? So the minute I said a dating app for Bharat, they got it. The CEO of Weirdo, who markets extensively in tier two towns, Sujot. The minute I said I gave him my elevator pitch, he immediately got it. So whoever has built for Bharat understands that the next story will come from Bharat, because just like we keep saying, right, the West is stagnating and everybody's looking at India, the market. I would say the metros are stagnating. Everybody is looking at tier two towns as the next this thing. Yes, it is important that you cannot price your product above $500, because there are only 20-30 million people who will pay for any product above $500 a month in this country. And Bharat is not that, right? So you have to be clever with your marketing, with your pricing strategy, and with your product, right? So it's a trifecta, and you have to get the right amount of dopamine set in terms of how we market, etc. So these things matter. Yeah.
Awesome. We have some really interesting questions coming up. I'll just skip through some of them and ask Tanisha's question. What drives your passion for entrepreneurship, and what motivates you to keep innovating and building new things?
Tanisha, I think about this a lot, right? I mean, why did I leave my job at the age of 40 to build something? Because I have never been on a dating app in my life. Oops, penny drops. I got married before dating apps even came to this country, right? But I understand Bharat because I've worked extensively in small towns. I have worked in Uttar Pradesh, I have worked in Tamil Nadu, so I kind of get a sense of where this is going. And as I said at the beginning, right, I come from a very privileged elite background. And when I meet youngsters, right, I mean, so I met this really happening radio jockey once in Madurai. He has some 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And I asked him a simple question, and he was single. Why are you single? Why are you not on Tinder and Bumble and what you have? He said something that, that is completely absent in our lives. He spoke about caste. He spoke about class. He said, people will judge me as I come from a Dalit background. I was zapped, right? Again, because of my privilege. My privilege basically tells me that there is nothing called caste, because we all live in our gated communities, right? But there is a different world out there. And that curiosity is what drives me. Every day in the morning, I want to learn something new. And this job has allowed me to do that. And I'm so happy that I left my professional 9 to 5 job, because I was becoming irrelevant there. I was just becoming a cog in a wheel, right? But here I wake up every day saying, what will I learn new today? Like now I'm into gaming, because we are looking at gaming as a product enhancement in our app. And I just play games. I'm playing so many casual games. My kids come every day. My kids think that my working room is like the best place in town, because every day I'm playing a new game, right? So again, it's the curiosity that drives you as a person, and And I think that's what is the kick for every startup founder, right? I'm talking about myself. I'm sure it's the same for even for lack of a better word, like Gaurav Munjal or Kunal Shah or whoever, all these OGs, right? I'm sure it's the same thing because every day they're learning something new, which you will never get as an opportunity if you are in a siloed, functional system in a large organization. So I think, yeah, I mean, this is what the future is. If you want to stay relevant, you have to be curious. You have to try out something.
Awesome. I think that also covers Mohit's question. Probably we can take last one or two questions. There's a question from Pranav who asks, I'd love to know what your core values are of the organization and how does it reflect your day-to-day working?
Yeah, so my core values, that's a very good question. Pranav, right? Who wrote mentioned this? Yeah, it's a good question, Pranav. Core values are transparency. You know, we put out real numbers. I am actually, luckily, I have an institutional investor who is backing us. So we have due diligence that happens every month. A report has to go to them. So whatever we put out are true numbers. Like for example, I have just about crossed 1 million downloads in 1 year. Right? I have only 30,000 paid subscribers. Right? In the sense, from a conventional point of view, given the fact that I've raised a very less amount, that is actually a very good number. But I'm not going to talk anything else, right? My female ratio is increasing. It is not great, neither is it low. It is increasing. So it's very important that you be transparent in your dealings. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that the startup ecosystem is currently facing in our country. If I may, I'm not yet an evolved startup founder, but if I may say it, I think that's actually a big challenge. I mean, every day, every week, there is something negative or the other coming out. I think it's important. It's the onus of every startup founder to be transparent in his or her dealings. And I think that's an integral part of our core values and what we stand for and what we want our app to stand for.
Wow, awesome. I think we can just take one last question. I will probably go to something in and around storytelling. So Anand asks, how do you see the role of storytelling evolving in the startup ecosystem, and what trends do you anticipate in this space?
Yeah, so very good question, Anand. In fact, when I went for the TIE entrepreneurship cell event, this is exactly what I was thinking, and I think one of the things is there should be sessions done with startup founders on how effective they can become storytellers. In fact, it's as simple as people should be taught digital marketing courses. Because see, a lot of startup founders are now coming. Everybody is not an IITN who's doing a startup these days. People are there are entrepreneurship cells that are opening up in Surat, in Indore, in multiple small towns, right? They're no longer small; they are as big as mini cities, right? And but for them, there is a challenge of not understanding the ways of digital marketing, in terms of Google and Meta and what you have, right? In terms of how they can approach influencers marketing without spending too much. There are multiple points that are there. But I think as an effective storyteller, I would say read a lot, experience something new every day. As I said, get out of your comfort zone, speak to speak to your maid for starters, speak to your maid. Do you even know what your maid's last name is? Do you even know where she lives? Do you even know her husband's name? Do you know what he does for a living? I mean, what are her daily challenges? I'm not being tone deaf here. I'm just saying that build out your experiences by questioning each and everything. Don't go with authority bias. That somebody is saying that it's right, it means it's right. No, challenge every status quo, challenge everything that people say is law. It is not law. Everything is a matter of interpretation. Nothing is sacred. Everything is a matter of interpretation. Even our holy texts are a matter of interpretation. Be it the Ramayana, be it Mahabharata, they actually wrote it in such an amazing way, right? I mean, personally, my two favorite books on the whole planet are Ramayana and Mahabharata. because it just shows that people are imperfect, which is what everybody is. So learn, meet people, get out of your comfort zone. This is what will make you an effective storyteller. You know, stay away, or rather limit. I mean, if you are a startup founder, if you are especially in the B2C space, etc., right? It's very important that you meet a diverse set of people. Yeah.
Awesome. Actually, there's one another interesting question which we should end the session on, which was how can storytelling be used as a tool for resilience during tough times in a startup journey? And as we know, a startup does face that in their entire tenure of the lifespan.
See, again, it differs from person to person, right? I mean, I have read all the business books of the Elon Musk's and uh, who's the Amazon guy? I forgot. Right?
Jeff
Uh,
Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, etc. of this world. I have read all of them, but somehow they didn't age well. If you look at Elon Musk now and Jeff Bezos is still okay, but they didn't age really well. So I look at sports, as a great metaphor for life, right? In fact, I'm not even talking about the likes of Dhoni and what you have. In my opinion, Dhoni is a personal favorite. But I mean, let's look at recently. I mean, this is actually very pertinent. The question that was asked recently. I just came to know that the chairman of the Tata Group, N. Chandrasekaran, right? He ran the Valencia Marathon in 4 hours 30 minutes, the full marathon. He's 60 years of age. He's in charge of 139 companies in the Tata Group. He has actually found time to train for a full marathon, and he did it at 4 hours 30 minutes, right? I mean, what is your excuse? Right? So maybe you need to, instead of blaming the entire world, you need to ask the choices that you made in terms of personal or professional. What choices have you made? Are they right or wrong? Right? And that's what I was thinking. So that was a story that actually gave me a lot of resilience. So again, look around, you will find these stories everywhere, right? I mean, so I am an amateur runner. Okay, I'm sure that. I mean, forget running. It could be anything. It could be any sport. Because one thing I realized after a certain age, the only thing that matters is health. Because everything else will follow if your health is good, right? It can be badminton. It can be running. It can be cricket, football, anything, right? You should not have any excuses. Similarly, as a startup founder, there are no excuses because there are people who have done it against all odds, right? I mean, there is an N. Chandrasekaran, respect to you, sir. I mean, who is at the age of 60 done a 4.5 hour marathon in spite of having such a hectic and busy schedule. Who are you to have an excuse, right? Who am I to have an excuse? And compare, I mean, of course, everything is relative, but what I'm trying to say is there are stories everywhere that are so inspiring, are so amazing, right? And you don't have to look at the big ones, right? There are stories around you, and I think you should take resilience from that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shyam, for your time. I think on that note, we can end the session today. There are some questions that we haven't answered yet, and we'll try to take them offline. But thank you so much for coming in. And as they say, we all tell stories and we all want to be heard. And that's exactly what you did for us today. Thank you so much, Shyam.